Hello everyone. In this video we are going to discuss the case why the DC series motor is not actually to be started without the load. People used to say when it started without a load, the speed of the DC machine will be enormous and will cause a lot of damages. Alright, and before getting into the DC motors directly, let us understand about the general principle of DC motors and what is the principle and how it works. Alright, and DC motor uses the DC supply as an input, and the DC electrical energy will be converted into rotating mechanical energy. So this is the principle behind it. Alright, so according to the construction, an electromagnet is placed in the stator and the armature conductor is placed in the rotor. And whenever the electromagnet is energized with a DC supply, a magnetic field will be created in the stator, so which cuts the rotor, and rotor is a closed one, so there is also an EMF, and the interaction between these two flux makes the rotor of the armature to rotate. So this is the basic fundamental principle with the Faraday's law is actually working. So the DC motors are classified into three types, and the first one is DC shunt motor, and the second one is DC series motor, and third one is DC compound motor. The differences in the construction part between these three, only with the variation of field winding. So when we connect the field winding of the motor in a parallel, then it is named as a DC shunt motor. When we connect the field winding series to the armature, then it is called as DC shunt motor. When we connect series as well as in the parallel, combination of both to the armature, then the motor is named as DC compound motor. So each motor each type of motor have their unique styles. So let us come into the DC series motor, why we have to start with the load actually. Alright, the DC motor speed actually depends on a few parameters, which is the number of poles P and the flux that created, magnetic flux that created in the field winding, and the number of armature conductors, and the type of winding in the armature. Actually, these are the parameters which decides the speed of the motor. So when we look into deeper to the DC series motor, the field winding of the DC series motor is connected series to the armature conductors, which is in the series connection, the current flow in the circuit will be same. So when I turn on the DC motor without a load, initially what happened? Initially the motor tried to run, slowly it built a field magnetic flux, and which cuts the armature conductors, and slowly the interaction of these two fluxes will happen. At the initial stage, the load current is very less because it starts to rotate. The speed of the motor is inversely proportional to the magnetic flux that created in the motor, and the field current is directly proportional to the magnetic flux. So this is the condition actually we have to consider to understand why the DC motor should not be started, DC series motor should not be started without a load. At the initial stage, the load of the DC motor will be very less. The field current is equal to the load current because the field winding is connected series to the motor. So when the motor is started at the initial stage, a slight current will be flowing in the field winding as well as to the as a load current. When the field current is less, the flux that generated in the motor, DC series motor, will also be very less. So according to the relation that we see in N, that speed is inversely proportional to the magnetic flux created. So when the field current is less, automatically the magnetic flux will be very less. So when you consider this relation, when the magnetic flux is less, automatically the speed is inversely proportional. So the speed of the machine will be in larger. So that is why people usually say the DC series motor should not be started without a load. When we experimenting in the laboratories with the proper safeties and things, initially we start the motor with the loads. So slightly we try to reduce the load of the DC series motor. We could feel the vibration and the speed of the machine, I mean the DC series motor will be larger. So that can be experimented in the laboratory. And also for better understanding this, we can go to the virtual labs offered by a lot of universities, which is available free, that any student can go and check and experiment it, why the speed of the motor, DC series motor is going up when we do not have a load. Alright, but before experimenting a real motor, try to have a precaution. And so this is the reason why the DC series motor is not to be started without a load. Thank you. Please share your feedback in the comment box.